79.
Okay. That's what I thought you were going to say.
Oh, you can't see my cheat sheet over here?
Oh, no, I can't see that far. I can't see anything far.
The cheat sheet's still here. I don't know if we are or not.
I see it. I see how you made that. You worked that in.
That's right. Pretty smooth, huh?
Is that how you had me hooked for the last 23 years? That's the smooth
yeah, right.
work?
Hey, it works. If I've got a winning pattern, I'm not going to let it go. We kind of have a topic.
We have well, we were trying to continue last week's topic.
Yeah, I think last week's topic almost felt like a continuation of the previous topic too.
Yeah. I think they're. I mean, I think as
it makes it seem like we're coherent people. We really have them fooled.
Yeah, I think as we progress, like the topics kind of weave themselves in. I have noticed that through all the episodes, but maybe intuitively more so now. It's more obvious because everything is just working its way towards unlayering.
Unlayering, Onion Boy.
Yeah, right. Onion Boy. The Onion Boy is more real than ever. Like it's just the idea of an Onion Boy just completely. It's just so every day. It's just a reminder how this is just an onion.
What we mean by that is it's a reference to like Shrek.
Those who don't have children.
But what it means is that we all have layers, and as you peel like an onion, and as you peel the layers away, you can get to the part that makes you cry. Is that how it works?
No, right. That each layer is just another run of tears.
Yeah. Of course, parfaits have layers too.
Parfaits have layers. Everybody loves
Everybody loves a parfait.
I don't like a parfait, actually. There's something about the layering that is disconcerting to me.
No, I don't like a parfait.
I love onions. Onion layers are really nice. And they're pretty, too. They kind of look like flowers when you cut them. Not the topic. Once again.
Anyway. Wait, did you actually introduce the topic? Or did you just talk around it?
No, I just talked around it.
So.
What if we just keep the topic a mystery as we continue to have the entire episode talking around the topic?
Let's try
And
that.
we never actually mention the topic at all.
Yeah. In the end, it'll be a game for people who make it to the end. They can guess what the topic is. The topic was nonsense all along. The running topic for all of ours. Okay. I don't even remember the topic. I lost it.
Okay, yeah. So the last episode we talked about positive psychosis, and basically to kind of sum it up, that we create these patterns of operation that soothe our nervous system, right? And we normalize ourselves to something that we normally should feel an influx to. So kind of like a survival mechanism. From childhood, early childhood, we just basically start to fool our system into calmness, even though what comes at us, the input that comes at us is very, let's say, shocking or unsettling, or what we're feeling is very shocking and unsettling, but we don't let that process, right? And so the extension of that is, so the positive psychosis is why and what, maybe. And then this part is what and how, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So why we set this procedure in? Like, why do we start normalizing something that we should feel an influx in? It's just to simply soothe our system, right? But then two, what that does forward. Like, right, this is maybe the other half of it, is like, what does that do forward for us? I mean, we kind of touched on it in the past that like it basically has you not react properly to things that should have an influx.
Yeah. But related to the onions, as you realize what is causing you to have an influx, that is like, your childhood traumas, your pain bodies and whatnot, as you peel those layers back, those influxes become less and less. Yeah.
Do we want to talk about that more of what happens when you peel them? Or do we want to talk about, I guess, the entire podcast has kind of been like how these belief systems, right? It creates this belief or creates this reactionary response.
Mm-hmm.
And then basically just creates blindness to the actual input. Right. And so
Yeah.
the system is just always on this, I'm speaking from experience, some sort of defense mode.
Yeah, but it's like autopilot defense mode.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't even realize that you're in defense mode, and you don't even realize that there's anything other than defense mode.
Yeah, it is right. And so having peeled some of the onion layers back now, and then just having, this is what maybe I will introduce this just to showcase the direction from which I'm looking at it. Normal behavior would be something that has always happened to you, happens to you again, and then it comes at you. But if you have addressed the onion layer enough, right? If you have addressed this belief system or this like self-created psychosis that caused you a react specific way in order to shield off the rest of the reaction, right? Like kind of like taper the reaction and distract yourself just the right way. But at the same time, the influx was much bigger, right? From that standpoint, what happens is if that's sooner or later when you practice this awareness, when those same inputs come at you, what you will notice is the reaction will just, one, you won't be triggered.
Mhm.
And two, you will almost not even have a reaction.
Yeah, I know. I've noticed that in recent years, and it's weird because I'm like, oh, I would have had a reaction about this. It feels weird not having a reaction about this, and that's its own reaction, of course.
Mhm.
But it's
Well, you're learning.
It's neat.
You're recognizing the familiar pattern, just a go-to pattern of operation. When this thing comes at you, you automatically respond with X because you have always, right? Like if that belief system gets set, oh, I got to do everything possible to protect myself, and here's how I behave in order to do so. Sooner or later, you don't even realize that this is how you behave when something comes at you.
Yeah.
But when you dig deep enough and you like recognize, wait, I behave this way when something comes at me. If you go through a recognition pattern over and over and over of just bringing light to that behavior, sooner or later that action comes at you and you don't behave that way.
Right.
And it's almost shocking.
Yeah. And it gives you opportunity to choose a new behavior, choose a new reaction or action or lack thereof, or maybe you can bring love and compassion to it instead of whatever it used to be.
Mm-hmm. Or if nothing else, just observation.
Yeah.
Right. That when Eckhart Tolle speaks about being in the now, that is pretty much the only time that you can be in the now, is when you get to watch yourself receive an input and then decide what the output will be, as opposed to be in a reactionary state of it.
What was a example that comes to mind for me at least was when we did a sober October back in 2020, COVID, right? And throughout the whole October, I was like, oh man, November 1st, it's all over. Gonna go drinking. But then, and I've heard this before, there is something about maintaining a habit for like about 30 days is the magic number that really makes it kind of stick. And, there at the end of October, beginning of November, it was like, I wasn't craving the drinks as much as I was before.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, it was like, oh, that's weird. I would have been drinking right now in response to something that happened or the time or whatever, at that point in my life, it was like, who even needs an excuse? But I'm like, but I don't feel like I need to. And then it became, I don't even feel like I want to. And I was really acutely aware of that feeling in me changing, despite it being like, oh, this is the same stimulus that would have caused me to drink.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was really neat. And it was also empowering because while, yes, I was obviously a raging alcoholic, high functioning raging alcoholic. I didn't feel like it had any real power over my life or anything during it. But now it's like, oh yeah, it totally did. It totally did if it was driving behavior like that.
It was driving distraction.
Yes, in the end, it was all a distraction, of course. But at a surface level, it was the reaction to the various stimuli in life.
Yeah.
That was this behavior. And once, especially once it was like, oh, look at that. I would be doing that now. I know I would, because I recognize the input pattern, but the output pattern has been broken. It no longer is an automatic go get something. It's I noticed that I would have, but I don't even care anymore. It was really interesting and empowering.
Yeah. And with something that is like, a societally based negative vice, it's easy to see. You're like, oh, well, it's not the behavior that in the long run, one, is good for your liver, general health, and two,
Sure.
like you're quite literally just using addiction to numb off not feeling something, right? But we do that with everything.
Yeah.
Quite literally everything.
That's
and
the
that is a
thing.
harsh statement, one, to make, but then two, to allow yourself to feel.
Right. I mean, this goes back to your dream about the kiss. It's like everything we do. And when I say everything, I mean like literally everything that we do is there to either numb it out or distract us or make us feel better or right around something that we don't feel the way we want to feel. So we do this stuff in order to either numb that out or push it into the way that we do want to feel. And that's really not the best reason to do stuff. I mean, it can still be productive, right? You can harness that. People have harnessed that to great success, if you want to use that word, material success, even into spiritual success. But I think on the path, at least to spiritual success, they have realized what it was and let that go.
Yeah. But it's almost like each opportunity that you have, and this is, could be even a tool to use. If you know something that you're doing, to begin with, it's very easy, right? It's very easy to peel those large layers, right? They're not on there all that tight, right? Oh wow, that is really thick.
I haven't started it all yet.
Right. So to begin with, like, think about, it's kind of like the universe giving you grace, because to begin with, alcoholism is something that is very blatant, right? And you might not want to admit it to begin with, right? But that is something that it's easy to grab on to go and wait, I am using alcohol for negative. Like, if nothing else, right, you can at least start to grasp this idea. Like, do I want to be a drug addict, or do I want to be an alcoholic? Like, I wasn't sure the order, right? Or whatever, right? Like those vices that societally driven as like, this is not healthy for you at all. Why are you doing it, right? So chances are, if it's not healthy and you're doing it, it's making you feel better for some reason.
Sure.
And then what is it that is making you feel better? And most of the people always, societally normally, we have actually already realized that like, oh, 5 o'clock and you had a bad day, go get yourself some wine. Do you know what I mean? Like, we already know that you're numbing off your day.
Yeah.
So those are kind of easy brushstrokes, but it does give you grace in a way to where you can work yourself up, right?
Yeah.
You start with easy recognition, like the low hanging fruit, like, oh, alcoholism. Look, I have a bad day. Instead of processing emotionally how it made me feel, right? Like, instead of actually going into the discomfort of that day, you're like, oh, look, this triggered me, or, this happened at work, or this happened in the grocery store, or this happened in traffic, and that triggered me. And instead of me coming home at 5 p.m. and grabbing a drink in order to numb it off, right? You can go, wait, obviously I'm stirred, right? Like, that is kind of like the easiest way to go into your inner self and go into this, the previous episode, positive psychosis, and start to see through, wait, I have created a pattern to distract myself from feeling uneasy, right? So that's like an easy way in. And then through that, you'll go, okay, what is it that I actually feel? And because you have, in order to do any of this work, in order to, I mean, even if you don't care about spiritually awakening and gnosis or
Yeah.
anything, just to have
Just to stop.
a healthy life,
Yeah.
happy, healthy life,
Yeah.
you have to know yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, heck, just to say it out loud here, that is the reason why we came here to Earth, just to basically unravel our own self.
What struck me as I started down this path was how often in the past I had something bothering me, but I didn't know what it was, and so I would walk around with this unease.
Nervous system.
Nervous system is activated.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure, if you did a blood test, there'd be all this adrenaline and cortisol slowly killing me that I'm producing because I don't know what it is. It's in there. And then it would often sit with me for days and days and days until I finally go, oh, it's the, I don't know, project at work, or it's the whatever, there's something, right? And eventually I got into the habit of realizing what that feels like and going, wait a minute, I feel I'm bothered by something, but I'm not conscious of what it is. And I will now, if that happens, I will sit there and just go, what is everything that's bothering me? No, it's not that. No, it's not. Oh, that's what it is. That's what it is. And I can, run through some things, and one of them will be like, oh, and you'll feel it, and you're like, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And then the other things may still be bothering you, and those may still be problems to deal with. But that one, the big issue, the low hanging fruit there, is the one to deal with then. Yeah.
But through this positive psychosis of just quite literally numbing ourselves off from feeling what we actually feel.
Right. We don't get rid of it. It sits in there and festers.
It sits there because we have trained ourselves to pretend like we are okay, and we're not actually experiencing the system influx that we're actually experiencing.
That's it. We all societally, we all pretend like it's okay.
On a personal level, I'm not even talking about globally. Just personally,
I don't even mean to each other. To ourselves, society. We've all agreed that we're all going to pretend to ourselves that it's okay somehow.
Yeah. So as you peel, the process of blocking yourself away from what you actually feel is the same process that works on these outer layers with the low-hanging fruit, such as, let's say, alcoholism with us, right? And it's the same layer that works itself down. What's interesting is, as you become and work yourself into the pattern of basically forcing yourself to feel what is it that you're denying yourself feeling, like, you know what I mean? Like, basically just force yourself to go into that influx over and over and over. It becomes easier and easier and quicker to see the root cause.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And which is, that's kind of the grace of the process, is like the same tools of how do you address it apply over here when you start the process, and they apply further in. The only thing necessary is just the commitment to actually see yourself past your own blocks. Like, just decide to get past yourself, right? And then, we say this a lot, but like, you will recognize that your body is, and your mind, your consciousness, and then thus your safety triggers are so clever, to where you will have all kinds of ways that your personal subconscious self will keep you away from getting to the root cause of anything. That's the psychosis, part of psychosis that is like difficult. But right. At the same time, you recognize that is a safety mechanism. But at the same time, recognize you're here to overcome it. You're here to overcome this belief system that is basically kind of like a blanket statement, is you are unsafe, period. Like, you've decided that. And then the only question is, what kind of toolkit are you carrying with you to make yourself not feel that?
Right. Yeah, no, it's amazing the lengths that the psyche will go to hide and distract and lie and cheat and whatever it is in order to keep you from actually facing the things that make you unsafe.
Yeah.
It's super duper sneaky.
Yeah. Yeah, to the point where logically, right? It does the thought of your action and safety might not even carry over. Like if you logically start to like add up values of each action and whether or not it will lead to safety, it doesn't even add up. Do you know what I mean?
Right,
It's actually net negative towards safety.
That's the thing, is that it's actually detrimental behavior.
But
it
your
makes
belief system, right? It just quite literally created these neurotic
psychological.
psychological or in psychosis like behaviors that logically do not actually work their way. Like, oh, this action actually makes you safer. Most of the time, it's not the case.
Right.
It's this action soothes the nervous system right now into some sort of fake status of belief that you feeling safe.
Yeah.
But it's actually unsafety.
Yeah. It's actually crazy. It's like clinically crazy.
Yeah.
But we all do it.
Yeah.
And it feels good, or at least doesn't feel bad. It feels like
it gives you immediate relief.
Yeah,
just like addiction.
Yeah, sure. Or it feels like the right thing to do, but if you were to logic it out, it doesn't actually make sense. It's actually not good for you, or at least not the right thing to do.
Yeah.
It's
well, no, like example, right? Like I don't know, maybe we have brought this up already or I know you and I brought this up when we were talking, but I don't know if we brought it up on a podcast, but if we did, it's still the example. Me having my affair, right? Whenever that happened, it was quite literally somehow through some psychosis, quite literally led into safety.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Logically, in no way does that action equate safety. And if you actually, if you are an accountant or actuary, if you actually add up the pros and cons or the weight system of those actions, it is like 120 degrees the other direction,
right?
Or 100, or however many degrees the other direction. Do you know what I mean? No, actually, maybe the reason why I say 120 is because that 60 degrees is just fake enough information that my belief system has created in order to provide immediate relief to the nervous system, as opposed to long-term addressing this completely terrible behavior, right? But in the immediate, right? Just like alcohol is, it's immediate drop in the nervous system functionality.
Right.
Right. So it's an example, like obviously zero excuse on my end, but my psychosis quite literally somehow tricked my system in believing that me feeling safe or wanted in that moment somehow creates whatever. But let's be honest, it's ... the nervous system in the influx of self just lowers down.
Yeah.
You go from trigger to not triggered, and it soothes us just enough because in the meantime, I'm choosing to act out of these psychosis-like quick fix behaviors,
right,
as opposed to looking through the entire system and going, wait, where in my personal childhood trauma is this actually coming from?
Right. It's like I think we've quoted this before, but that rabbi, he on Instagram, he says, people think that, the alcohol or the drugs or the affair is the problem. It's not. I mean, it's its own problem, yes, but it's not. To the person doing those activities, it's the solution to some deeper, possibly hidden to them problem.
Yeah. But I guess in this particular episode, what I want to say is it is a solution to the quick fix of the influx of the nervous system. Right.
It's obviously not a solution to the problem. It's a solution to the problem bothering them temporarily.
Yeah. And then thus a complete distraction, right? The goal, so basically through this personal self-designed psychosis, to begin with positive, because we think that this is a safety protocol that we run, it is there to like, oh, well, I don't have control over the system, right? I don't know how to function. And so you start to basically suppress your real feelings. You start to block off the real feelings and the real influxes that you feel as a child, right? But then later, as an adult, when you engage in negative behavior, that is actually the opposite of safety. You continue to run the psychosis that you set up for yourself as a child by not addressing, not feeling the cause or the actual cause of this action, and just surface dwelling. You're surface fixing.
Yeah,
You're surface fixing.
But a lot of the surface fixes are detrimental.
Yes. None of them are actually fixes. They're distractions away from not feeling the onset initial design of this psychosis, because you did not have the capacity or the know-how or even understanding that you are feeling an influx. There's emotions that are arousing. The nervous system is going up, and then there was no productive or conducive way for you to, for reals, lower the influx of the nervous system, right? As a child, you were not giving like, oh, hey, Tanya, looks like you're trying to bite somebody. Let's talk about why you're biting people.
Right.
And then therefore, that is the productive conversation that you could have with a child now, realizing now that that was not a conversation that we ever had as children ourselves.
But that's the conversation we need to have today with ourselves.
With ourselves
with
right
ourselves, with our child self.
Yes.
To go, why are you acting this way with these behaviors, which will lead to, because I feel unsafe or bad in some capacity.
Yeah.
Why do you feel bad in some capacity? That's the hard work right there.
Yeah. Well, because the truth is, if something within me as a child set in this behavior that I needed to defend myself through biting, chances are there's something in my behavior right now that is quite literally a direct extension of that, but it doesn't look as ridiculous as biting.
You've replaced biting with something.
Aggression. So basically, it's basically a form of self-defense, right? But instead of going out and biting people, you could do this in two ways, right? I'm not physically violent person, so other than the biting, apparently. So instead of me attacking them with my teeth,
I'm not sure if I'm glad that I missed out on that or not.
Interesting observation. Well, no, I don't actually remember biting. I don't actually remember this because it would have to be a pretty big influx in order to, out of anger, to bite somebody. Do you know what I mean? I would think I can feel the influx.
Yeah. I was joking. I don't want an angry bite.
Yeah. Right. Like at some point, I remember I got influxed as an older child, and I remember wanting to bite, and I think I did bite. But I remember the only reason I remember that is because I was already older. But when I was told I was biting, I did not remember all the previous bitings, right? But that influx, that emotional system influx, that was never addressed. I'm not blaming anybody, just because at the time that is not something that you do. Oh, why is that you feel? What is it that you feel that causes you to want to protect yourself with biting?
Yeah.
As an adult, I can still have that conversation with myself. Chances are, whenever you do not feel safe, and in the past you would have engaged in biting, question is, what is it that you do now that is equivalent to the biting?
Right.
Right?
Because you probably haven't addressed the original feeling of it.
And the feeling is hopelessness and desire to defend, desire to protect my own safety.
Yeah.
Right? And then what do I do? And in my case, it's if I feel threatened, I go into aggression. It's not physical aggression, but in my case, because I have foresight of mental capacity of manipulation and control, right? I set up my life through control, right?
I was waiting for a pause in the conversation to use that word.
Yeah.
Because that's my thing too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably everyone's thing is control at some level.
Yeah. I don't know if we said this or not. I know we've been talking about this a lot. All control is there to set up false parameters of safety.
Right. I mean, grabbing a drink is control because now I feel bad, but this is under my control and this will help me feel better. It's all
in that case it's just numbing, right?
But you feel like it's whether or not, I mean, I'm not talking about whether your alcoholism is out of control. I'm saying you have the control in that you have the ability to decide I'm going to drink this.
Yeah.
And that is, and you are exercising control in that sense.
Yeah. Any action of control, as silly as it might be, actually soothes.
Yeah.
Right.
Or the, all this control is an illusion of control. But even if you're aware that it's an illusion of control, in as much as it's not action, it's, I'm learning about it. I'm going to understand it. I can comprehend it. I can wrap my head around it. That's also control. It doesn't have to be an out-facing action per se. Control can look like a lot of different things.
Yeah. No, I know, this is something that I know that I can directly correlate to it. Back when I used to be aroused and basically triggered, what I used to do a lot of time to feel like I'm in control, right? Instead of going out and biting, to me, something that I can control very, very easily and solve a lot of problems was cleaning, right? Like that. Yeah. So
I saw, it was just the other day, the last time we cleaned that I don't remember what it was, but there was something. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah. What was it? A week ago? Something like that?
Oh, really?
2 weeks ago?
It's that bad still.
Well, no, it didn't last that long. I don't remember what it was, though.
Yeah.
There was something.
No, I mean, yeah, but that is an easy way to feel control, right?
And it's, it's a productive thing. It's a good thing, right?
Yeah, but you can feel the energy with which you're doing. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah,
like that's the difference. Is obviously the moral of the story here is do not clean your house or do not clean your house, right? I mean, if you don't want to clean your house, that's fine. Hire a cleaner or whatever, right? But if you enjoy cleaning your house for the point of enjoying cleaning the house, I actually enjoy cleaning the house. Like to me, it feels good.
Do you enjoy cleaning curtains?
I don't enjoy cleaning curtains. Right. But I can. In my case, it's usually the sink. So it directly correlates to the sink. So the week ago, I don't think I was bleaching the sink.
I don't know the sink. I don't know.
Yeah, but that is something that I noticed myself doing. Bleaching sinks. Somehow my psychosis basically creates some sort of positive feeling of control and not feeling hopeless and making things that are dirty, quite literally, right? Like I'm taking things that are dirty and I'm making them clean. Do you see what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that idea of making visual, so like the psychosis then runs into, if you're bad and you aren't safe and you're unwanted and you're unsafe, because with me, those are all the triggers of my childhood. And then if you are, if you feel hopeless, therefore that's an out of control feeling. A very quick way to not be bad, therefore be clean, not be hopeless, and then therefore have control. And just in general, feel like you have control. To me, was cleaning the sink. Mm-hmm. And so part of my psychosis, was just basically making the sink white. The negative thing is our sink is already not white. It's already black.
It's a black sink, yeah.
Yeah, so when I moved to this house, it didn't do what it was supposed to do.
Got to find a new.
Well, no, I still clean the sink, but it doesn't give me that, I guess that blindness, which is good in a way because it removes, like if you can get this obstacle removed and you're forced to face the trigger, as opposed to replacing it. That's taking alcohol away from us for 30 days forced us to see what we do with triggers.
Yeah.
So taking a white sink from me when we moved into this house made me go, oh, look, that is what I do with sinks, right?
Yeah. It was really obvious during those 30 days that like, oh, I'm bothered, upset, bored, whatever. And I really want to drink to not feel that. Mm-hmm. It was really obvious. Mm-hmm. Right.
But it, obviously it works for the nervous system because whatever alcohol does, I don't know the chemical structure of alcohol, but it kind of like lowers the inhibition to feel stressed in a very false type of a way, right? There's no true relief out of this. Mm-hmm. But it's kind of like, the crazy thing is, it is societally accepted way, in such an ingrained way. I mean, not in the United States. In Ukraine, it's not, right? Alcoholism is just like, everybody basically judges you for it, and so everybody hides that. But here,
you almost wear it as a badge of honor that you
like,
drink.
rosé all day. That's
Yeah.
like, literally, that it's just. I mean, obviously, it's alcohol lobby and marketing, and their goal is to normalize numbness with alcohol.
Yeah. I mean, it used to be cigarettes in here. I mean, everywhere. But like, cigarettes have almost become taboo, at least with, younger, even us and younger.
Yeah, that's not.
And now it's like, smoking's not cool. That's what? But then again, you go to Europe, and it's very common to see people smoking in Europe.
Yeah. But I think people who do it, know they're doing it. Do you know what I mean?
I mean,
like society, it's normal, but it's not societally acceptable. Do you know what? You're still know that you're doing something wrong. I mean, obviously, people in Ukraine still drink.
Yeah.
But you do know that you're doing something wrong. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, consciously, there's enough societal rhetoric that tries to persuade you otherwise. In Europe, you have to buy a cigarette pack with terrible pictures of what smoking does to you.
Yeah.
So you're buying it, and each time you pull out a cigarette, you have to see someone's basically deteriorated lung or a hole in their throat. And it's very visually graphic images.
It's awful looking stuff.
Yeah. So as far as what society is trying to do to dissuade people from smoking, it's net negative, right?
Yeah.
Meaning net positive as far as
society goes.
Yeah. So you have to almost kind of like go past the societal norms in order to still engage in smoking.
Yeah, you have to push through it and let your addiction run so hard, so blind that.
Well, not so blind. It's hard to be blind about it. That's what I'm saying.
So it has to override the, yes, there's holes in throats and there's deteriorated lungs and, all these terrible pictures of dead things. But that's okay because this right now is worth it.
Yeah. But some awareness has to come in,
Right. It does force some level of awareness.
Yeah.
Right.
Alcohol in the United States doesn't do that right now.
No, it doesn't. There's no, cirrhosis livers.
Pictures on the wine labels.
I think the liver's on the right, isn't it? On wine bottles.
Yeah.
There's, trees and flowers and
goats.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or chateaus.
A chateau.
And I'm actually not against drinking. Like, for the right reason, there's nothing wrong engaging. And it's not for me. But, you and I did not participate in drinking at any point for the right reason.
Right. Yeah.
We literally had parties where the goal was to get wasted.
Yeah, that was the point of a party. And the only thing, because I felt bad drinking alone. And so it was like, if I can get other people drinking, then all right, now I can drink as much as I want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. With me, it's interesting. I when I started college and I was under a lot of stress, kickboxing to me was like godsend, because it quite literally allowed me to diffuse my system in a very physical way, like through aggression. Do you know what I mean? Not aggression on the human being, but on Bob.
Bob.
Yeah. But no, look at it. It is actually healthy. I lost weight. I became more fit. There was all of these positive things. It didn't lower my stress levels. Do you see me? As an overall thing, this was a positive thing in every way possible.
Right.
Because it did lower my stress levels overall. But the right approach would have been to allow that to lower the stress level, but at the same time see that I'm using this as a tool to lower my stress level, and then therefore go, what is it deep down that I'm actually seeking out of kickboxing?
Yeah, what is it that you're stressed out in the first place about?
Yeah. But like most of the time I would complain about it. I'm like, guess anytime I have a bad day, just like with alcohol, you're, the drinking and complaining about whatever that day is. In kickboxing, I would be beating somebody and their face would be on Bob or a punching bag. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So I physically knew that I was taking out physical aggression in this case, which is not something I usually participated in. But it was just nice to exercise and allow that system to flow, right? Yeah, and then, but the stress level was right there, but I never took it deeper. I never went like, oh, that professor in college really ticked me off, right? Well, why? Now I can go, oh, well, she was doing things unfairly. I felt hopeless, right? Because like, what am I going to do against a professor? So lack of control, right? Unfairness, that's a trigger for me. Well, and now I can go, okay, well, uncontrol and unfairness, basically straight down to unsafety.
Yeah.
Right? No, am I disastering at the time? I'm going to fail this class. I'm going to get a bad grade on this project. Yes. But deep down, all of those things are quite irrelevant. Like, what do you care that I got whatever grade I got right now in some random college class that I don't even remember the name of? Do you know what I mean?
The funny thing is that at the time, all of these things at the time feel like the most important thing in the world.
Yeah.
The grade I would get in the political science class was so important. Why? I guess why is like, well, if I get a bad grade, then my GPA goes down, and then when I'm trying to get a job, they're going to see that I have, which would have been, 3 credits out of 100 something, or a percent, or a couple. It would be almost nothing, right? And then I'm not going to get the job, and then I'm going to, die alone on the streets. Is somehow what is
in your case? I'm going to get bad grades. I'm not going to get the job, but not getting the job in your case means I'm not loved.
I mean, yes, for me, that too.
Right. You have to go into that bucket. You have to go in actually the bucket that it was feeding out of.
Yeah.
So you're not loved. When you get rejected by an employer, you're not loved.
Yeah.
It's like, that doesn't even make sense.
Well, you're right.
Back when I was a hiring manager, I rejected a lot of people.
Oh yeah, me too.
These days, we reject a lot of people. It has nothing to do with anything other than, guess what? I'm doing my life and you're doing your life, and we're just not good fits. You could be a great human being. You could be a terrible human being. It is completely irrelevant when I'm making this decision.
Yeah.
Because I'm making a decision based on my quadrant of belief structures and needs and desires. And, yours just happen to be not matching with mine. And if you just narrow down to that, does that really matter?
Yeah, right. And it's similar to this. I don't know if for our topic or not. That example is similar to like when a boy and a girl first get together, and then they will both try to change their behavior to the point of trying to change who they are to become what they think the other person wants.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, Zally is going to leave me.
Well, otherwise they're not wanted and rejected.
Right. But there's no thought to, wait a minute, why would I want to be with someone who doesn't like me for who I am in the first place?
Or doesn't even know me.
Yeah. They don't know me, but like it should be, oh, I'm going to go, be with Sally, and I'm going to be myself. And if she likes me for me and I like her for her, that's great. But if one of us doesn't like the other person for who we are, that's also okay. And you dodged a huge bullet because
that's also great, because then you can move on and find.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Because the worst thing in the world is for you to be, stuck with someone for a long time who you don't like and they don't like you. Mm-hmm. That sounds awful.
Sounds wasteful.
Right? I mean, think of, it's wasteful. It's a wasted opportunity. It's a wasted life.
Yeah. No, are there lessons along the way of basically you owning your own self? That's basically what that relationship lesson is.
And that's not saying, oh, well, I don't do dishes, so I'm not going to change that. That's not what I'm saying. There are behaviors that you might need to, compromise on, right? Okay. Well, now as an adult, I'm going to have to do dishes in a relationship. Okay, that's fine.
Well, no, that's just learning how to share a household.
Right.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about trying to change who you are as a person, trying to pretend to be someone else, which I say that because I have done that.
Yeah. But the truth is, usually the case is not react how you would actually react when things happened.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's how it presents.
Which is basically what positive psychosis of last episode is.
Right.
in order for you to not feel rejected, not feel really, really bad about whatever definition you place on this relationship with Sally, you would basically try not to go deep down into the trauma that you're trying to avoid. And in fact, place these behavior-like patterns to mitigate yourself from seeing your deep childhood wounds through the lens of Sally. Right?
Yeah.
And so in that case, you would be acting quite the opposite to what your pain body traumas are.
Yeah.
So like, if you feel like you're not lovable, right? But then you would do all of the things in a relationship that make you seem like that you are deserving of other people's attention.
Yeah.
If you don't feel like you're worthy, then you're going to go out of your way to do all of the worthy things that make you seem like you're worthy.
Right.
So to begin with, which is blatant and obvious, if you see a person behaving as such, they are quite literally telling you, here are all of the ways I don't feel about myself, and I'm going to present them forth to you and act in this not yourself way, but to the direct shadow of their trauma.
Right.
Do you see what I mean?
We've seen that in people we know.
And
we've seen that in ourselves. Yes.
Yeah, ourselves.
We continue to see it in people we know. Instead of, hey, here's how I feel. Maybe it's something that happened today. Maybe it's something you did. Maybe it's something you said, and we can have a conversation about it instead of, any number of like unhealthy behaviors, aggression or withdrawing or whatever.
Just not communication.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it is difficult, and think about it. When you and I started our relationship, it is difficult to have a wisdom type of conversation when you're 20 years old.
Yeah, because it's like, I'm like, oh, I really like you. I don't want to lose you. I don't want to lose you because she's gonna find out I'm a schmuck or something. I don't. So I'm gonna have to really, really go out of my way to hide that or something.
Yeah. Right.
Then I can fool her, and then I've got her. I don't know what and then it's psychotic. It really is.
No, it's psychotic, but it's psychotic because that is the toolkit we have to survive in our childhood years.
Yeah.
We just never drop the toolkit or bring awareness to it when we have the foresight to do so.
And
we just drag it along.
Yeah. And this applies not just to, a romantic relationship. It applies to friends. It applies to neighbors. It applies to your job and your boss and all that stuff. You end up trying to, I certainly did, tried to be I tried to project an image of myself into all the places that I worked, that I would be seen a certain way. Very, very manipulative, right?
Manipulative because
it's manipulative.
Self-preservation.
I don't necessarily mean manipulative in that I'm, trying to twist a mustache and do so. It was good in that, I wanted to be viewed as the most valuable employee I possibly could. Yes, to get the, love and respect. Yes, so that I could make more money. All of these things, it's rarely one little thing. It's really just this big combination soup of all these pain bodies all in one.
Yeah.
Although those all do end up coming down to unsafety at some level.
Unsafety through not being loved.
Right.
Yeah, that's
it's unsafety
your
through
flavor.
not being loved. It's unsafety through not having more money. It's unsafe. Yes, it's all kinds of things. For me, it was unlove was this is the big one.
I mean, I think it's the primary one for you. Unsafety through not being
without
loved.
a doubt.
Because I want to say the money feeds into it higher.
The money's more like if I make more money, then I'll be more loved.
More loved, yeah. Everything feeds into through not being loved.
Yeah.
But when you allow yourself to see all of these little pathways of psychosis for the justification of not like having your nervous system basically short circuit, and then you continue to survive on Earth as a human being, like you give yourself grace to allow yourself to just accept yourself and be okay with like everything you have done so far. This is the best I could have done. Right. I'm not actually making excuses forward or back or anything like that. But that is quite literally just the way humans behave. in order to be able to function in a threatening environment that is by default threatening to us.
Right. And we're not taught otherwise. I was never taught.
No, and our
Otherwise-
parents were never taught, right?
Right.
Like there was never a conversation, Tanya, why are you so upset and why you're biting people, right? Like, but parents didn't even know how to have that conversation. They didn't even have the capacity themselves to go, wait, why am I triggered, right? Like that was not a conversation in Ukraine in 1980s.
Right. And, I wish we'd started earlier, especially for our children's sake.
Yeah, we didn't.
But, at least now I'm sure they're sick of hearing it, but they've heard it a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I was, this morning I was once again lecturing on this.
Yeah. I'm sure they love it.
Well, no,
because it would have driven me in the same way that it drove me crazy when you first started. It just drove me crazy. I couldn't stand it.
Yeah. I mean,
but I imagine that's how they feel to some degree too. But
yeah, but in your case, this is, an interesting side effect. There's multitude of ways. Me telling you that you're doing something wrong
means I'm not loved.
Means that you're not loved.
There's something wrong with me.
Yeah, something.
Therefore,
Tanya is rejecting me because she's telling me there's something wrong.
Yeah.
And if something's wrong with me, she doesn't love me. And that's like literally your trigger, your pain body.
That is the end of the world. That is more important than anything else in the world.
Yeah. So for me to get through to you, it was impossible because the second I say something to you, it's never looked at the light of like, wait, is there any truth? Let's take Tanya out of this. What do I actually feel about it? The mind is
right. It took a long time to rewrite that as, oh no, she actually loves me and cares about me and genuinely wants what's better for me. It took a long time to get to that.
Well, because it's the threat overrides any logical processing.
Which I see as just another way to pacify the fear of it. Because then it's like, okay, well.
Oh, okay. To excuse yourself to even go in that space.
Right. Which is like, okay, well now I can listen to the problem and I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
I see it now as that.
Yeah.
Instead of these are just words that we're exchanging. Let's just worry about the words.
Well, no, the entire system, when it's in an influx, hearing the truth or hearing the trigger, even if hearing anything that is quite literally poking at the core of that trauma, is almost like life-shattering, earth-ending experience.
And it's most people, maybe everybody, they don't like hearing negative things about them. There's an ego hit in there as well. Which may also feed into the pain body.
Yeah. Well, the ego is there to protect yourself from actually feeling the broken child, right? That's the goal of the ego. The ego is there to basically create these systems of psychosis, systems of distraction, systems of anything, just to labyrinth yourself quite literally away from acknowledging the broken child within you.
Yeah.
That's what I have realized.
Yeah. Because it's that feels safer.
Yeah, it's life-threatening otherwise.
That is the job of the ego, is to protect itself.
Yeah. No, it's, I don't know if I said this.
Yeah, don't conflate yourself and the ego itself.
Yeah, the ego is sneaky.
Maybe that's a topic for a different
Yeah,
episode.
The ego is super sneaky because it basically goes, oh, look, well, obviously, you're doing a good job over here. Like I noticed myself being able to see it in this, I guess, psychosis split personality. I don't know if I said this on the previous podcast, but it's like the ego even uses spiritual healing as an excuse to keep yourself away from more spiritual healing.
Right. Oh my gosh.
Which is like, wow. I mean, like I talk about me being fucked up, like impressive. Like I'm like, wow, are all people this impressive?
Over the last, I don't know, 12, 18 months, there have been several times when I'm like, oh, that's right. Oh my gosh, I feel so great. I'm going down this spiritual healing path. I've got everything under control. And that is the time when it just goes and everything falls apart. And so now I'm like, ooh, I can recognize that feeling coming. I'm like, you have to look out. What am I gonna do that is just so blind? Because that's the time when I am the most blind.
Because control, right? Control feels safe.
Right. I feel
spiritual path and enlightenment.
Yeah, maybe it feels like you can let your guard down or something because everything's under control.
But
I don't know.
Letting your guard down is still mitigated on safety. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Everything is still convoluted around on safety.
So now,
but the labyrinth of psychosis that keeps the ego so clever is just next level.
I've now associated that feeling with like a watch out. That is a dangerous place to be, because that is when I will be so blind and I will do something or not do something or whatever, which is more control, obviously.
Yeah, it's all control.
But
no,
yeah.
This is, I don't know if the spiritual world talks about that, but especially in the beginning, this idea that I'm going to be love and light and I'm doing my spiritual work and blah, 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 blah. And I say this without, that accent because like, to begin with, everybody falls victim to that being the solution within itself.
I mean, there's layers to this.
Onion, that's what I'm saying. That is the low hanging fruit that you don't see it as a fruit.
Right. Day one, you hear someone saying, "Oh, well, just be love and light, and that'll take care of everything." And it's the
ego grabbing onto something that is righteous to justify not seeing your childhood trauma.
Yes, it is and it isn't, because on one level, at a higher level, at the PhD level of it all, that is actually true.
Yeah.
But when you're starting, you're not at the PhD level, and if you just
keep on saying that,
that doesn't work at the novice level. You have to do some work to get to where that is just a truth.
Yeah.
You have to.
But people grab onto that because ego gets very soothed.
It's really easy. It's like, I'm not going to let anything bother me, and I'm just going to have my Valley Girl accent and it's just, love and light.
Yeah. Yep. I was victim to that.
Because it's super sneaky, because it's like that is true.
Yeah.
At a higher level, but if you're not at the level where you can actually apply it, then it is a disservice to your spiritual growth.
Yeah, but because the ego, right, or the psychosis uses that as a nervous system suppression, like nervous system, calming scenario.
Yeah. Right?
Like instead of using alcohol and drugs that now, oh my God, I don't do drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
Right? You now do love and light, which is really drugs and alcohol, but without the drugs and alcohol. And when you say love and light, to begin with, it soothes your nervous system, just in the same way the drugs and alcohol do. And it's interesting. What's so hilarious to me is that I see so many people just stuck in that pattern, never moving out of the cycle of seeing what they're doing to themselves.
Yeah, it's like I wish
wow.
that.
But I saw that within me. My ego received satisfaction out of that soothe. I'm doing something. I'm doing something towards making myself better.
Right.
I'm doing something towards seeing through my own bullshit.
I think it's taught not at the right level, and the people who truly understand how to apply love and light, they're not out there telling the freshmen love and light. They're telling them figure your shit out.
Yeah, going into the trauma. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I'm in the middle of another reading of the Kabbalion, and there are levels and planes of existence that I'm trying to think what I even want to say here. You can affect lower planes of existence from higher planes.
Yeah.
But pretending love and light solves everything at the wrong level doesn't actually do anybody any good, other than maybe it makes you feel better today. Which,
But
there is value in that.
but that's just continuation of psychosis.
If that's keeping you alive.
Yeah.
But, alcohol would work too.
Yeah.
A punching bag or going for a run would work too. It is at a higher plane that some of these things need to be applied, and it's troubling that if those are taught at the wrong time to people who aren't ready for it.
But the people who are teaching that,
and I'm not saying I'm ready for it. I'm just saying that I understand that it has a place.
Yeah. But the people who are teaching that have been at the love and light level on the surface dwelling themselves for years.
Yes, that's it.
And so they never moved anywhere themselves.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
Because people who truly understand the levels are not teaching that to new people because they would know not to.
Yeah, it's only somebody who's stuck themselves who would be.
I'm trying to come up with an analogy that there's that weird state of freak out where you're just lost. I've had it. I still have it every now and then.
If you're triggered and you're lost.
If you're triggered and you're like, well, you're like, I know I'm triggered. I know I'm losing it. I know these would be my go-to vices or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know what to do now.
Because you haven't figured a way to soothe the system?
Yeah, I guess that's what it is. You haven't figured out a way to soothe the system. I mean,
because the trigger is not actually life-threatening, although it feels life-threatening. So to soothe the system whenever you are being triggered is to recognize the trigger is causing me to see this whole thing from a whole other perspective.
Yeah.
So the easiest way to do that, right, is to meditate, but basically sit there and stretch your breath, prolong your breath. Like start prolonging. She's trying to go. Start prolonging your inhales and then making your exhales longer.
I mean, soothing the system is one thing, but then to actually make progress on it.
Actually go into childhood trauma.
Yeah, that's the go-to is to bring mini-me into the situation.
Yeah, but there's no need to start bringing mini-me if you're in the middle of being triggered. That doesn't even work.
Well, there's being triggered, but I find that sometimes being triggered can help me actually feel it better. And if I feel it better, I'm more likely to have a productive session with mini-me.
Yeah, but to have a productive session with mini-me, you still have to lower your nervous system.
Yeah, you can't be losing it, flipping out.
Yeah, if you're willing to go there, get the trigger. When you get the trigger, going, oh wait, this is a deep trigger. 100% true at all times. This is a deep childhood trauma that you're not addressing. So you don't even have to go, wait, I wonder if this is a deep childhood trauma. No, it is. The question is, how deep do you want to go in this particular moment to dive into it right now?
Yeah.
Grab onto it. Grab onto the frequency of internal influx. Like, where's my nervous system being hit? Right? Feel that as you sit in meditative state or just breathing state, right? And then basically start allowing yourself to comfort your inner child, which will soothe your nervous system, right? It does soothe the nervous system. And then go, what you're actually feeling. What is the emotional range here that is not what we're being triggered about? Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
Chances are in your case, it would be, well, I'm feeling unloved, right? It will get there, right? Like, oh, maybe the money's striking me into being unloved. Or like, oh, maybe like someone rejecting my contract makes me feel unloved. Or like, oh, maybe someone, I don't know. I know judging is not your thing, but I don't know, whatever else you have over there. But, chances are it will just feed itself through these microcosm of the big into the big quality of unloved equals unsafe. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And you will just use that as basically, kind of like a thread that you will use to go into the deeper version of this trauma that is just like, chances are this is somehow unloved, therefore unsafe.
Yeah. No, there have been times when I'm like, I know it's there, but I don't feel it strong enough. And I have to like, really dive in to do the opposite of soothing myself, to get myself worked up about it in order to really feel it, to let it go.
Yeah, to work yourself back into an influx.
Yeah. Because I'm like, it bothers me, but it's not like super bothering me, but I know it's something that I need to deal with. It's bothering me enough that I know it's something I need to deal with, but I'm not actively bothered at this moment.
Yeah.
And I have to work myself into it.
Were you able to get into the thing that we talked about this morning today? Or not?
But I don't want to talk about it here.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, right. But you have to, to begin with, right, on the low-hanging fruit, it's almost easier, which is the grace process of this, to go, oh, that person really said something that really bothers me, right? And then, honestly, the world, like the entire world has been talking about all of this so much that chances are most of the people by now know that the trigger is something deeper. Do you know what I mean? Like, I love that, especially if somebody's in some sort of a echo chamber of spiritual awakening, enough things will be hit at you to where by now it's not a shocker that the trigger is not something that, what it actually is.
Right. It's super. I mean, that's like one of the first main lessons that someone can learn, is that the trigger is not what it is. The trigger is not the trigger isn't necessary. The trigger bothers you, but the trigger bothers you through by proxy through something else. Right?
Yeah.
You not getting the promotion. Yes, that sucks. Yes, I understand why that would bother you. But there's a bother and then there's a bother, right?
Yeah.
Nobody would like not getting a promotion. Sure. But where that hits for one person is like, okay, well, I'll try again, or okay, well, maybe I should look for another job or whatever. It's not and I'm not even saying an ego hit. I'm saying there are some people, me, for example, where that would be like, oh, I'm not loved, I'm not respected, I'm not going to make more money, and then my wife's not going to like me as much. There's all kinds of really messed up, convoluted ways that hits down at that I'm unloved, I'm unworthy level.
Yeah. Yeah.
And seeing it really has nothing to do with the promotion. The promotion is its own issue.
Promotion is its own thing. There, specific.
It is. Yes, it is. Yeah,
you're not getting the promotion is actually specifically there in order to have you have this experience.
That's the thing. All the things that bother us are gifts from the universe to point out, here's some more work that needs to be done to identify and deal with and release these things that have been bothering you for your entire life. And you being unaware of them means they're just going to continue to bother you.
And grow. Yeah. But then what's the quality of life when you're constantly being triggered about everything in the universe?
Right.
That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
It's like when you start letting go of these onion layers, you recognize how many things that just happen in your life for you are there in order to trigger you. So then you have a nervous system influx. So then you have an option to look deeper and release that.
Right. And once you start releasing them, I mean, sometimes they go away completely. Sometimes they're just less. Sometimes it takes multiple iterations. But anything you can do to lessen it, life just gets better. It's just like, I'm not bothered by sitting in traffic anymore. It bothered me to some degree to begin with. But I mean, there's some people who just flip out. But I mean, nobody likes sitting in traffic, but it doesn't bother me. There's no charge to sitting in traffic. But for whatever charge was there, that seemed like a solved thing.
What? I guess I never had that. What would even be the charge for traffic? How does that work?
Well, the charge for traffic, I mean, maybe it isn't even traffic. It's, we're going to be late. Oh, this is going to look bad on me type of thing.
Being late and therefore it looks bad on you.
It isn't the traffic itself. It's the traffic will cause me to be late. And
so you disasterize it forward into what this could potentially involve in.
And so it's it maybe not completely gone, but it's so much less than it was. Now, granted, I drive a lot less, but it was a thing.
Yeah. No, with me that, you and I have talked about this. We had the whole episode on it. Being late for a plane or some sort of boarding scenario.
Okay, well, maybe there's still something around travel.
No, not traffic, the plane boarding.
That's what I mean for travel. Like
airplane. Travel. I thought you said traffic.
Travel, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Maybe there's still something there.
Boarding the plane and being late, I have associated through my, personal psychosis into unsafety. Obviously, it does not make sense, but that is the onion layer or the bucket that I have yet to really process or truly address, because it triggers me like, oh, we're late, therefore we're unsafe, which I know it doesn't make sense right now as an adult, but it just goes back into, once again, my child self feeling unsafe and out of control and unsafe and unknown. Like, this is unknown. Like, oh, if we miss our plane, guess how many unknowns it brings in? Might as well be infinity.
Right.
I know it doesn't make sense, but that's how the child who knew that being late was bad, but did not understand that there are such thing as reschedules or like, we'll just catch the train tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? Like, the soothing mechanism around travel of what it means to be late to a plane or a train never went into the system. And the psychosis that was created to soothe the system is, from now on, going forward, you always avoid being late, period. And we don't talk about why. We don't address why. We just, from now on, we're never late.
Right.
And like, now that I'm as an adult, I'm talking about it, I'm like, the psychosis quite literally within itself makes a blanket statement that is, let's say, positive. Like, we don't want to be late.
That's the thing. It may still be the right getting to the airport early may still be the right thing to do, but that is beside the point.
Yeah. Is that psychosis is, we have to be there, period. And we don't talk about Bruno. Do you know what I mean? And that's what it is.
We missed a flight, a connection when we were, this was forever ago. We were
in our early 20s.
We flew to Newark. And then we were flying from Newark to Rome. And the little screen said, go to B2. And so we went to B2 and we sat there and there's nobody there, which should have been a clue.
We were young.
We were young and
we did
naive.
not know how traveling works. At the time, though, I will say this. At the time, for some reason, the airport monitors displayed arriving gates for flight.
We didn't mistake arriving and departing. It wasn't that. Because afterward it wasn't that? It wasn't that. We did not do anything wrong. It showed the wrong gate, possibly because we were in the wrong terminal. I don't know. We may have done something. We did something wrong because everybody else got on the flight. We didn't. Maybe we flew into the domestic wing, and B2 in the domestic wing is not B2 in the international wing. I don't know what it was.
I thought
we didn't because afterward we're talking to the people, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I guess MTA is the Metropolitan Transit Authority is who decides what goes on the thing." They're like, "Oh, MTA screwed up. You're right. It does say B2, and whatever it was. Oh, that's why we got our free hotel."
Oh, I did. I still till this day did not know this.
No,
I thought we did something wrong.
We followed the sign and then.
No, I know we followed the sign, but I thought the sign by the time we got to the right thing was for arriving gate. Okay.
No.
Oh, okay.
Long story short, we missed this flight, and that was the first time I'd ever missed a flight, and that growing sinking feeling of the flight's leaving in 10 minutes. There's nobody here. There's no gate agent. What's going on? Are we? And then when we missed it, and it's just this complete overflow of hopelessness and despair. And what are we going to do? Are we ever going to make it? The whole vacation's ruined. Oh my gosh, all the money we've lost. It just, everything all at once was.
And now, like as an adult, I'm like, why would two people sit at the gate when the departure time was still listed and not think twice 30 minutes prior when the gate was coming boarding?
Because we had flown enough to know, 30 minutes
but not
before,
enough to have a brain for it.
30 minutes before, there should be a big crowd.
But there were a lot of people.
There should
we
be
just
a big
did not
crowd
realize
at that gate with a gate agent and a plane.
Well, no, there was crowds because Newark is busy. There's none of them were like none of them was there even a display back there behind the thing that said Rome? Because I don't think there was.
Probably not.
Because did you know what I mean? Logically speaking, none of that could potentially be something that you and I would even ever.
No, it was
like not question now. Like, wait, why is that gate not say our flight at the back? Or like, hey, if it's delayed, then the gate agent should say something.
Right.
Was there our first international flight? Is that why we were so stupid?
We flew to Cancun for a honeymoon.
Yeah, but that was, does that even count?
I think we went to Paris before that.
Oh, that's true. So, yeah, it's not, I don't even know.
It was.
I think the universe needed for us to have this experience.
I think the universe needed for us to have this experience. Where I was going is the overwhelm of feelings was so powerful. But then we got it sorted. Okay, we're going to be on tomorrow's flight. Okay, we have a hotel. Okay, hey, it's a night in New York instead of a night in Rome. Okay, is that a fair trade? Maybe not, but it is what it is, and we still talk about it to this day. We have memories, but there was this acceptance afterward, at least on my end. At some point, there was this acceptance of this is what it is, and now we have a different adventure, and there was a weird calm that came with that to me.
Yeah, no. There was this point, the acceptance point, this is interesting, is like my system was basically in complete shock.
Our luggage flew, though. We didn't have any luggage.
Well, there's no luggage.
Which should not have happened.
My system in complete shock. And you know what? It's like I reached this period where like there's nothing I can do about it. This is completely outside of my control. So that idea of control of like anything about like that's control.
That's why I say it's a certain point. The certain point was after it had been rebooked, because before it's rebooked, there's still something I can do to get it rebooked, but there's no more flights from Newark to Rome until the same time tomorrow. So
yeah,
and is that one full? I don't know. Are we on standby? I don't know. All this unsafety. Once it's rebooked, then I can relax. Then there's this calm.
Yeah, see, with me, it wasn't. After it was rebooked, and even though I knew that there's nothing we can do and we're just going the next day, I was in the shock state of not knowing how to surrender into the status quo. So my psychosis was basically never give up, never surrender, quite literally, right? And so the system would not accept the surrender, right? Like sooner or later, basically, in order for me to feel calm my entire life, I have to basically do something to control it. I do have to do something. I have to do something and do something. And even though the system reached a point of where, like, this is it, like, there's no control, the universe has basically put you on the next day flight. My system was in complete shock because I was being forced to surrender, which I did not know how to do at all. Like, I think now looking back, this is 20 years later, I did not even know that there's such thing as surrender. And I would say that I still struggle with that.
Yeah. I mean, it's a weird spectrum because there's like, surrender doesn't mean just give up necessarily and just take it. Surrender isn't, well, I'm just going to wait for the magic winning lottery ticket to blow onto my doorstep. I do believe that, God helps those who help themselves. And, if there is something you can do, maybe you should do it. But there's a balance there. When we were flying back 2 years ago when the snowstorm and we got stuck in Denver, and then there's the standbys and the delays and the standbys and the delays and all that stuff. We didn't do a good job of surrendering then. That was probably even worse because it was like, it was just, it doesn't make sense to try to hop through these other cities, even though there's weather there.
There's a lot of control,
and there's a lot of, we probably went overboard on that instead of But you want to be home. It was literally Christmas Eve and we wanted to be home.
We wanted to be home for Christmas.
Yeah.
So my thought process is I would rather do everything I can, even if there's a low, slim chance of it succeeding, than sit back and completely give up on trying to get there and go there the next day or the next day.
Right. And so we tried. We failed. We ended up coming back the 26th, but that's fine.
Yeah, but that was still not surrendering.
No.
Like that's what it is.
But there's a balance between doing what you can do and realizing there's only so much you can do. Yeah,
but the trusting of the universe to have your back, even when things don't feel safe, is a very difficult process for me. And it would be a difficult process for anyone who had unsafety as their primary trigger. But I think most of the people have unsafety, even though they haven't defined their specific flavor of unsafety of how it feels into that bucket. Control is the mitigating factor for feeling unsafe.
Yeah.
And so, but surrendering to the universe is the hardest thing to do if you have spent your entire life running away from unknowns, because surrendering to the universe is quite literally embracing the unknown. And that is what I have come to realize, very recently, is that I'm preventing myself to be open to the universe because it's quite literally goes against my design of personal psychosis of not relinquishing control. Being a spiritual person and recognizing that most of the time when you get out of your own way and you let the universe take care of things, it is 120 times better than what you could have ever imagined.
That's
I already know that. I cognitively know that. But
at the same time, if I can get on standby for this flight, then maybe.
No, but as long as I let my pain body, my belief system of this idea that I'm unsafe stand in the way, I will never let the universe come in and allow me to be open to the possibility of unlimited. Do you see what I mean? That's basically it. The belief system is I'm unsafe, period. Control is the only mitigating factor. And as long as I function that way, everything else is basically being driven by these, horse blinders of not seeing anything through any other lens.
Yeah.
Which is like, obviously, if you ask anyone, like, well, do you want to have the universe, like, limit of what it gives you as a gift? Like, your higher self not able to give you gifts. And you'll be like, well, no, of course not. Like, I've done this enough to where I know how amazing it is for the universe to give you something that you never even saw coming. But if you then go, what do you think you're doing anything in the process to keep the universe from giving it to you? People are like, no, I don't think so. But in my case, I'm like, yeah, I am walking around, nervous wreck. I did that, and it reminded me of some comedian who does the shaking.
Frank Black, the angry guy.
No, like
Frank.
No, some comedian whose skid was to be this frantic and shaky. But it's literally how I feel. That control is preventing me from standing there shaking. Like when we missed our flight to Rome, I was basically standing there shaking.
No, it was the end of the world. I'd never missed a flight, and I'm like, I don't know. Do people miss flights? What is it? What? And it's like, obviously people miss flights all the time. People are always missing flights. Due to their fault, due to not their fault, due to weather, due to airplanes, due to traffic.
How 20-something years of traveling, starting our experience with that and still continue our experience with that, we're still are completely blind and do not know how to handle not being stressed out about over traveling. How much we over exaggerate this unsafety factor around traveling. That is right.
I mean, we just fall. Tenerife was several examples of that.
On it. We had a whole podcast on how unsafe it feels, and we're sitting there eating, and we can't even eat, and we're just flipping out, just losing it.
Yeah,
actively aware that we're losing it.
That's the fun part: is being actively aware.
Yeah,
I am losing it, but I'm continuing to lose it despite knowing that I'm losing it.
Yeah, but because all of this comes down to obviously the a box of unknowns is like life-threateningly big. Bigger than life-threatening and big, right? The box of the unknowns that come with whatever it is we designated in this time, and this time is missing your flight, is childhood level, like earth-shattering deterioration. Because to a child, the idea of like, oh, well, you just die and that's it, you can't even process that. Like the worst case scenario is beyond death.
That's the thing that still strikes me as, as I don't know. It's so bizarre that all these things, they feel so much worse than if you just died.
Mm-hmm.
They're so much bigger than that.
Because the child never ... itself out. Do you know what I mean? You never ... the worst case scenario. You just left it at worst case scenario, big box.
Yeah.
And the big box has never been looked at, identified, or thought of. It's just there's this big box of...
But it's big and scary, and it's definitely worse than dying.
And it's deep. Yeah, it's definitely worse than dying. It's deep. It is endless. There's all kinds of monsters inside there. Do not touch. Do not touch and do not go. And so, so just to kind of wrap this up, the psychosis there is just not to touch that box.
Yeah.
The safety mechanism is just to not touch that box. Yeah, it's diabolical. It's impressive. It's impressive that this is something that we're capable to have as a system. It's diabolically clever on all kinds of level. I mean, like, no matter who you are, you're basically a genius because you have this in you to be able to keep yourself away from your own looking at the box. And then, like, we're all this amazing genius beings walking around, have diabolically designed plans to keep us away from this box. And it's, I said to you a couple of days ago when we were talking about it, so I'm like, considering how smart we are to keep ourselves away from this, it is impossible to get through it almost feels like the ego is so clever and the broken child is so broken and the psychosis is so psychosis that, like, the amount of commitment you have to overcome your own self.
Right.
Wow. I'm impressed that any of us even get through the first layer of the onion.
If anything, the smarter or more clever you are, the harder it is because you have to outsmart yourself almost,
all the time.
At all times. And not only that, you have to outsmart the part of you that you have been training since birth to protect yourself.
Yes, it's diabolical.
And you have to go against what feels like your better judgment, what feels like safety. You have to go against these things.
Yeah.
And so it isn't necessarily obvious that this is the right thing to do, the safe thing to do, the better thing to do, the thing that's going to actually bring you peace and tranquility.
No, it actually feels life-threatening.
It feels like why would I want to do that? That's crazy.
Yeah. And so you run the opposite direction. Yeah. And that's the, like, such an interesting part is that's the experience of Earth.
Right.
Is the diabolical nature of our design, of this experience that we have designed for ourselves in order to keep ourselves from knowing ourselves. And, as far as, like, we yesterday in the episode that we watched about the Arcturians is studying the nature of that system is like, wow, think about this. Think about the diabolical nature of ourselves and the labyrinth of self that we create. It is impressive. Impressive. I mean, it's hard to say knowing that you are subject to that and then it's causing your own suffering. But if you just look at it from the overview standpoint, wow, that is a accomplishment.
Right.
The longer you keep yourself away from self, the more, it's almost like more accomplishment you have as in your self-psychosis. I mean, I don't want to do that anymore, but it's extremely impressive to see people continue on that path.
It is, but it's somehow more impressive to break out of it.
It's difficult.
That's difficult.
It's difficult to break out of it. Yes, it is. It's its own version of oppressive to go the other direction, considering how much tenacity you have to stay in it.
Mhm.
But that's my whole thing with tenacity is the amount of tenacity everybody has to stay in it. I know how much tenacity I have not to look in that box. Has to be that much energy to bring back to the other side in order
Right.
to overcome yourself.
Right.
And that's where everybody fails. Is this tenacity is 120%. And most of the people don't have the know-how or the desire to take that 120% and
match it on the other side.
match it on the other side.
Right.
And that's it. That's the only block anybody will have to overcome self. Is just the tenacity to have that same effort go the other direction.
Yeah. No, I can feel the blocks. I can acutely feel this desire to not go there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, eventually, you're like, oh, look at that. That's my clue that there's something here that I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, I don't know, tips and tricks, I guess. But it's still hard to override the natural gut reaction, the momentum, 40 years of training of don't look here.
Well, 40 years of momentum into that direction. Just don't look there, don't look there, don't look there. Right? Like, because you basically have to go against your own feelings of safety. Because you designed the system to trick yourself into feeling safe. And then in order for you to overcome yourself, you basically have to start threatening your own safety.
Yeah. No, that's exactly what it is.
And by default, guess what? You have been spending the last 40 years trying to keep yourself safe. And now you are the reason why you're not feeling safe.
Right. So you're fighting against yourself.
Yeah, you have to fight
really
yourself.
Messed up.
No, it's genius. Because who are we best at fighting? Ourselves. Because we will never see ourselves as the enemy.
Who is it that you can't outsmart, outwit? Yourself.
Yeah.
You're equally matched. If anything, you're at a slight disadvantage to your other self because they have 40 years of training.
Yeah. And they perceive you as a threat. You perceive yourself as a threat.
Right.
And then you will never listen to yourself. And then
let alone anybody else.
Well, yeah, let alone anybody else. But that's the thing, is it's really the person, the journey to enlightenment is the personal journey of self, is because you can receive all the information possible and you just have to take that information. And the only thing that information does is helps you understand your own trickery. Right? And then you have to overcome yourself with this information. But it's your personal journey because you are the enemy that stands in front of you and knowing your own self. Because you're protecting yourself from this broken child box of void that is the unknown. That is actually quite blank. There's nothing in the box. But you have...
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, but you made yourself believe that box is end
of the world.
Is a no-no square. It's hilarious that there's nothing in the box. That's funny. To me, I find that very funny. And yeah, anyway, so yes. Another reiteration of how awesome we are.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.